on a daily basis, and we have to make sure we analyze them in our own way and get to understand and relate to those which we do relate to those we understand, and also give room for what we don't know, and never pretend we know what we don't. Otherwise, let's get straight into the first of these many stories. Welcome to Moments in Current Affairs. Johannesburg acting city manager Brian Maduga has cancelled a council meeting called for 13 September as lawyers' letters fly out of the status about the status of the councillor Colleen Makubele. The COPE member insists she is now the speaker. The DA disagrees. Johannesburg's mayoral chains are worn by the Democratic Alliance Mpho Phalatse, but the ANC has the greater number of seats and wants the city back. The party has reportedly promised the speaker's position to Colleen Makubele and COPE's only representative in the council. She appointed herself acting speaker of the Democratic Alliance. This done after Speaker Vasco da Gama was ousted on the 31st of August, and her lawyers have said she has the right to do so. Using her assumed position, Makubele has called for a meeting 13 of September where Phalatse is likely to face a motion of no confidence. The ANC, in a new alliance with the EFF, now has 120 seats in the 270-seat council. They need the support of 16 councillors from smaller parties to win back Johannesburg, which is on its knees despite Phalatse and her team's efforts. For the ANC's Johannesburg game plan here, Makubele, a swashbuckling figure, is fronting the EFF to change the government. See a profile by Queenin Muswabi. COPE's national leadership has said she is acting without a mandate, but the lone councillor who got in on a proportional representative vote is pushing ahead. Makubele is called the chair of chairs in the council and got the post after the DA had to knit together an alliance of small parties to take over the running of the city of 6 million after November 2021 municipal elections. Interesting run going to the wire there, and of course we have to follow that closely and see what is happening in the city of Johannesburg. There was a project led by eThekwini municipality in Durban and the solid waste collectors. The spring cleaning initiative was joined by Mayor Mxolisi Kaunda, Deputy Mayor Phumlani Mavundla, and artists from Afrotainment led by owner Mthokozisi DJ Dirakati, and volunteers. Cleaning operations started at the King Dinizulu Park along Berea Road and moved to Julius Nyerere Road through the busy English Market and the City Hall 2 kilometers away. Now, Mavundla said that the initiative was meant to encourage making a difference. He said it was the only attempt to revive Durban tourism, but a call for city cleaner or a cleaner city in general. Before we attract the tourists, we need to love ourselves first. It's time to love ourselves so that the message we're spreading, once the city is clean, only then will we attract tourists. Now, the decision to invite entertainers and Zuma, who was visibly very popular with the youth, was meant to attract young people and to join the initiative as well. This speaking, of course, about the presidential hopeful, the young Duduzane Zuma. He said it was an attempt at social cohesion to encourage people from all over the city to take part. Zuma said the initiative is more than cleaning and awareness. It's about social cohesion and introducing people from different environments to something that should be done as a humanitarian process, as opposed to waiting for cleanup day or spring day. Without us working together from whatever background we are, race, religion, or your traditional and cultural practices, we are all in this thing together. So unless we pull together, it's not going to work, he said. Though tourism can bring many advantages to developing nations, there are also a number of downsides. Each nation has its own unique set of challenges, but the problems experienced in the Gambia's flagship industry involve UK grannies and their insatiable appetite. Since the late 1990s, the Gambia has been a destination of choice for older British women seeking sun, sea, and saucy shenanigans. These tourists made a habit of visiting the West African country to pay young adult males for sex, creating a very seedy market within a market. The men who take part in these arrangements have come to be known as bumsters. Now, this has carried on for the past 2 decades. A cohort of UK grannies are now regular visitors here, and it's not necessarily because they enjoy the vast tapestry of Gambian culture. The country is small in size and provides a home to roughly 2.5 million citizens. However, its coastal location and year-round hot temperatures laid the foundation to exploit an economic goldmine. Sadly, some visitors, this has turned into a full-blown sex tourism, and the government is now ready to take a stand against these lustful travelers. Abu Bakar Kamara, the director of the Gambian Tourism Board, told a local publication there earlier this week that they are now seeking quality tourists only. The top official says the tourists must now come to enjoy their culture rather than to go indulge in seedy sexual arrangements. He said, "What we want is quality tourists, tourists that come to enjoy the country and the culture, but not tourists that come just for sex. The government would welcome tourists interested in the positive side of the country and not just those who came for their lustful excitement." Chaos erupted in Tembisa, Gauteng on Thursday after several South African police services officers were shot by an armed gang. Up to 15 robbers were involved in the Sasol garage robbery, and they opened fire indiscriminately when cops tried to foil their plans. It is understood that the robbery was already in progress when 3 SAPS officials entered the premises. On the morning coffee run, the trio were immediately called into action. They were also accompanied by an ADT security officer, according to some resources. Now, the crooks proved to be the fastest draw, unloading a hail of bullets towards the law enforcement specialists. All 4 men were wounded in the attack and are currently receiving hospital treatment. As of 12 o'clock yesterday, no fatalities had yet been confirmed. The incident took place at Sasol Garage on Andrew Mapeto Drive. The location in Tembisa South had its struggles with lawlessness in the past, which cops outnumbered 5-1. With cops outnumbered 5-1 by these thugs, the opportunity to enforce law and order sadly just never materialized. Now, here are several details that have been confirmed to us by the SAPS. 1 officer was shot in the head and subsequently airlifted to hospital. The other 2 stricken cops were rushed to medical facilities via ambulance. SAPS found 8 rifle cartridges and 9 9mm cartridges at the scene. Shots were also fired at a police car after 4 9mm cartridges were also found in an unmarked Nissan NP300. The suspect fled the scene using 2 getaway vehicles, a Toyota Quantum and a Toyota Corolla Prestige. In another unfortunate facet of this story, the 3 cops and the security guards were also disarmed of their service weapons, which included a 9mm pistol and a Glock. A manhunt has since been launched to track down these brazen thugs. 11:10, and we continue to give you moments in current affairs. NUMSA says it has done all it can to encourage the PUTCO workers to go back to work while they are trying to work out through their demands. At the same time, the union says it understands the frustrations of the workers. PUTCO drivers say that they will not back down until their demands are met. Meanwhile, SATAO says it will do whatever the court requires them to do, but they cannot physically remove people from striking. The union says it is open to a roundtable discussion with PUTCO management. We'll see how that develops into what it needs to develop into. There are fears that the political violence is flaring up again in KZN. This is after the IFP councillor was shot dead and another wounded in the Msinga area. On Tuesday, a newly appointed communications manager at the IFP-led Mlalazi municipality was killed. On Monday, a bodyguard of the municipal manager of the same municipality was killed by unknown people. So the fears are that this could start a snowball effect, turning this into something more hectic. Speaking of hectic, the survivors of the Mdlalose Tavern mass shooting in Nomzamo informal settlement in Soweto are relieved that the identities of the 5 men believed to have been behind the shooting have been released. But they believe they will only get closure once the suspects explain their actions in court. This week, police released the identities of the men who are believed to have been behind the shooting that left 16 people dead and several others injured at a Soweto tavern in July. The wanted men are believed to all be from Lesotho, and they are Sarol Lihlanya Sillo, Tsepiso Elliot Khadebe, Tabang Radikatara, Tsidiso Moleko, and Keletso Rabasotho. Now, all the men have left the country and are in Lesotho. Sillo is a leader of a Lesotho group called the Terene Yakhosi Mukata that is said to be linked to the Zamazamas and enjoys the support of the ruling party in the Mountain Kingdom. Sibonelo Tonko, who miraculously survived the shooting without a scratch, said that progress on the investigation is good news. But I cannot get peace until those people are arrested. For police to know who they are is good and well, but I will only be satisfied when government says, here they are, we have captured them. I want to see their trial and get answers as to why they did to us such a thing, he said. 13 minutes now after 11. And we continue with moments in the current affairs. Today, on Friday, the 2nd of September, the 4th session of the conservationist Fred Daniels' 1 billion rand civil claim against the South African government came to an end in the Pretoria High Court. With the fate of the Deputy President David Mabuza in the balance, counsel for the defense had managed once again to avoid any engagement with the material fact, but the judge, visibly angry, promised closure before the end of the year. The conduct of this case is absolutely disgusting, to say the least. The background context to this statement of Judge Kasim Sardiwala delivered to the council in the Pretoria High Court on the 31st of August 2022 was abundantly clear. Equally, as he indicated, was that if he could have used more descriptive phrase than absolutely disgusting, he almost certainly would have. And the script which the counsel for the South African government had effectively been writing since July 2010, which conservationist Fred Daniel first lodged his 1 billion rand civil claim, could once again be summed up in 2 words: Stalingrad defense. We look at that as a part and parcel of what must happen. Of course, going across the seas to the ever-present story of the late monarch. The Queen's coffin is set to lie in state to allow the public to pay their last respects. Lying in state is usually reserved for sovereigns, current or past Queen consorts, and sometimes former prime ministers. During the formal occasion, the closed coffin is placed in view in the vast medieval Westminster Hall. The historic spectacle is expected to attract hundreds of thousands of people. The Queen's death in Scotland means there could possibly be a second mini lying in state, most likely in St. Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh, which would allow the public to honor the monarch. Contingency plans put in place in case the Queen died during the pandemic are believed to have included ticketing of the main lying in state, possibly in time slots, and an option which could be employed. The Duke of Edinburgh did not lie in state, which was in accordance with his wishes, but at this point in the COVID-19 crisis, such a mass gathering were also against the law. In the days leading up to the funeral, members of the public will file slowly past to pay their last respect. For a royal lying in state, the coffin is draped in the royal flag, usually a personal standard, and the rests on a catafalque, now a raised platform covered with a purple cloth, flanked by military guard around the clock. The Economic Freedom Fighters said it has noted the passing of the British monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. However, the party will not mourn her death. The EFF said it does not mourn the death of Elizabeth because it serves as a reminder of a very tragic period in the history of South Africa and the African continent at large. The Red Berets said South Africa's interaction with the Britain under the leadership of the British royal family has been one of pain, suffering, death, depression, and dehumanization of African people. The EFF further said that during her 70-year reign, the late monarch not even once acknowledged the atrocities that her family inflicted on native people in Britain and that Britain invaded across the world. They said, and I quote, "She willingly benefited from the wealth that was attained from the exploitation and the murder of millions of people across the world. The British royal family stands on the shoulders of millions of slaves who were shipped away from the continent to serve the interests of racist white capital accumulation, at the center of which lies the British royal family," said the EFF. Finally, and further afield, in this beautiful but sometimes troubled continent of Africa, 437,000 barrels of oil are stolen on a daily basis by criminals in Nigeria. According to Premium Times data analysis, between January and July, Africa's biggest oil producer lost an average of 437,000 barrels of oil a day to criminal entities and individuals who illicitly tap pipelines onshore and offshore in the Niger Delta region. Nigeria recorded lower production in the first 7 months of the year. In January, the production stood at 1.4 million barrels per day, but as of July, the productivity went to lower to 1.1 million barrels per day. Pipeline fires are commonplace in Nigeria, in part because of poor maintenance, but also because of thieves who vandalize the pipelines to siphon off petrol and sell it off on the black market. According to industry sources, Nigeria loses about 200,000 barrels of crude to oil thieves, vandals, and illegals, refining operators on a daily basis. Most people in the Niger Delta live in poverty, even though the country is the biggest oil producer on the continent, with an output of around 2 million barrels a day. Talk to yourself about the inequality. Look at the fact that whatever is happening there is a showing and a telling sign of the realities that the people are living with on the ground. That brings us to 19 and a half minutes after 11, and that would be the end of our moments in current affairs. Happy Friday. We're in this together until 12 o'clock. P, we're coming in between 12 and 3 with The Invasion. And of course, DJ LT and Miss Lelu with from 3 to 6 p.m. Just saying, I don't know where I want to go, but let's just drive.
We're social. Check us out on Facebook.